Uh, Good morning to one and all present here. I heartily welcome this day two session speaker, Dr. Ashish Seth sir. He is ACM distinguished speaker, and we are privileged to have you, sir, with us. Let me also welcome all our faculty participants. This is AICT RGPV joint teachers training program on blockchain technology and its applications. I welcome all the faculty participants who are from Madhya Pradesh, from RGPV affiliated institutes and AICT affiliated institutes all over India. I heartily welcome on behalf of LNCT MCA today's our speaker, Dr. Ashish Seth sir. He is ACM distinguished speaker and involved in this particular TTP, and he has guided a lot to us for this wonderful session. Let me introduce Dr. Ashish sir. He is an author, consultant, researcher, and teacher. So a great combination and a motivation for all our teachers during this teachers training program. So I think all of us are privileged not only with the blockchain technology related, but there are so many things to learn from you, sir. You are so humble, and you have guided me and Alka ma'am in such a wonderful manner that we are having a very nice event with this during this teachers training program, and it is a wonderful learning experience for me also. Dr. Ashish is a professor at School of Global Convergence Studies, Ina University, South Korea, and is presently deputed to Ina University, Tashkent, Uzbekistan. He is also a visiting faculty at TSI Riga, Latvia. He is a senior member IEEE Life Member CSI and active member of international societies like IACSIT, IAENG. He is also serving as ACM distinguished speaker under ACM DSP program. Really, the prestigious collaborations of Ashish sir is helping us a lot in this TTP. His PhD in computer science in the area of information systems. He has authored and published more than 40 research papers in the indexed journals, authored 4 books and several book chapters, and also editor of several international journals. He has been into research and academics for more than 17 years, and he worked at various universities in India and abroad, holding different positions and responsibilities. A special mention for his consultancy work. He is working as a consultant for components testing of ASICSCA learning tool for ASICSCA USA. He is subject expert under European Union project strengthening the academic staff of the Transport and Telecommunication Institute in the areas of strategic specialization. And his research interests include service-oriented architecture, cloud computing, blockchain technology, and all such emerging technologies. So really honored to have you, sir, and a special thanks for our director, sir, Dr. Sanjay Bajpayee, sir, who has managed your contact for this teachers training program. And it's so nice that in spite of your busy schedule in India, you have agreed to spare your time with us. So over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this nice introduction. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Perfectly.
Okay. Okay, let me share my screen first. Is it visible? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. and I hope that you all are staying fit and doing fine. So I welcome you all in this teacher training program, and today's session is on blockchain technology principles and practices. And before I start my session, I would like to thank the LNCT Bhopal for organizing this event and also giving to all of us an opportunity to interact with each other. My special thanks to Dr. Megha for associating me with this event. I would also like to thank the ACM, where I am stated as a DSP program, and I think you all are aware that ACM is a premier global community for professionals and students, and it has been advancing the computing and the science and professionals. ACM has been trying to make or finding the ways that how this technology make a positive impact on society. Okay, so let's start with our today's discussion. These are the contents which I am going to cover in today's talk. So I'll be talking about the blockchain, the fundamentals of this technology, how the technology has evolved to this present time. We're talking about the decentralized ledger, the 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 key principle that works behind this technology. We are also talking about the different kinds of blockchain which are used to develop different applications. I'll be taking some use cases that is going to help you understand that how this technology can be used to build different applications. And finally, we'll see some challenges or the limitations of this technology, and their efforts have been, going to, fix up these challenges so that we can take the most of the benefit of this technology. Okay, so the topic of this talk is the core of the core principles of the blockchain. So when we talk about the core principles, basically we are talking about or trying to find out that what is the block, how these blocks are chained together to make a secure network. Generally, when we talk about the core principles of blockchain, we need to understand the key terminology that is used in the blockchain, like decentralized ledgers, the immutability, the trustlessness, security, the smart contracts, distributed ledgers. So these are the things that we are going to talk in today's session. So the audience is obviously looking for what are the key takeaways of this session. So I would like to tell that we are going to understand the founding principles of this technology, and also we are going to talk about some use cases. So those who are looking into the research of the blockchain, they can understand that how the applications have been developed. And again, when we talk about the limitation, this may taken as a scope for for the research. So whenever we talk about limitation and challenges for researchers, this may be a research scope. So let us see about the dominance or understand the potential of this technology. Do it really means to talk about this technology? So let us discuss on this slide. You have been hearing about the cryptocurrencies are very popular nowadays. And if you look to the number of cryptocurrencies, so you can find out that more than 5,000 cryptocurrencies has been registered till date. Though not all are popular, but this will tell us that how this market is evolving. And the cryptocurrencies base is the blockchain technology only. If you look about the spending, the budget that has been allocated for this technology. So in 2018, it was $2.1 billion, and in 2020, the budget allocated for this technology is $3.4 billion. But due to this pandemic, there was a slight decrement. But again, the things are improving, the economy is reviving, and in the next 5 years, the budget allocated for this technology is $20 billion. It's a huge amount. So we can easily understand that what is the dominance, that how what is the potential of this technology, and how the industry people have adapted this technology and moving towards it to build their solution. Also, if you look to the banking sectors, financial institutions, almost 70% institutions have adopted this technology because of its nature. It provides security to the data. About the job posting, there are emergence in the blockchain specialist. Even in the LinkedIn job posting, you can find in the recent years, there are 3 times job postings are seen for blockchain and domain people. So this is just to understand that blockchain is really important, and it's having a potential, and people are adapting to it. Companies are moving towards the blockchain. So it's actually have a meaning to talk about this technology. If you look about the evaluation, so there's a survey done by the Juniper agency, and it has been found that more than 2/3 of the top Fortune 500 companies have already adapted this technology. If you talk about the annual rate, then almost 50% growth has been achieved in the year 2030. Even in the graph, you can see that the budget has a very high allocation in one decade only. So in 2019, it is $0.3 billion, and 2030, it is approximate $24 billion. If you see to the timelines, so in the 2008-9, it is actually proposed, the idea of Bitcoin being developed, proposed by Satoshi Nakamoto. And that was actually the starting of the blockchain technology. And then in the 2011-12, you can say there's a deployment of cryptocurrencies has been seen. You have heard about the Ripple, Litecoin, Coinbase. These have been emerged. Later, it has been identified that this technology has not only limited to the cryptocurrency, but we can go beyond to that. So the concept of smart contract has been proposed, and in the year 2015-16 somewhere, a permission blockchain network solution has been proposed by the Linux Foundation. Also, the Ethereum Genesis first block was created in this year, and then onwards in 2017-18, there was this is the era where we have identified some issues in the blockchain, and we have tried to fix these issues. We have worked on the data storage, we worked on the consensus mechanism. So in this year, we can say that it's a year of identifying the problems and fixing it. And it's also called the year of ICOs, where many startups have emerged out and they propose the ICOs. And you can see that we are in the present, and it is still evolving. Companies are moving to the blockchain. Many countries have already been announced that they have giving this much budget on this technology. So let us have a look about the different areas where this technology has already made its, prove its worth. So if you talk about different areas, blockchain, you can find it everywhere. You can see it in the healthcare, you can see in the supply chain, you can see it can be used with the IoT, it can be used in automobile industries. Even you have heard about the project called Singularity Net, that is the integration of blockchain with the AI. And this project was much appreciated. And during its launch only, it raised $36 million ICO within a matter of 30 minutes. So currently this project is at beta stage, but it's running at the Ethereum blockchain, and AGI is a cryptocurrency that is used in this platform. So here we can see that blockchain is actually in almost all the domains. You think of a sector and you can find that blockchain has its presence there. Okay, now let's see that how all this story started. So blockchain started in the year 2008. There was one paper published by Satoshi Nakamoto, and this paper is a kind of foundation for this technology. In this paper, he proposed the idea of global shared ledger. He said there is a possibility to make the transaction without using a third party. And in this paper, is also he addressed the issues of cryptocurrencies that was not issued by this time, and he laid a foundation of cryptocurrencies that was successful, that is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the first successful currency which is still performing very good. Later on, once this framework has been established, now we have seen that so much work has been done and so many framework has been proposed, like Ethereum framework, Hyperledger framework has already been proposed. But the foundation had started in the year 2008 with this person, Satoshi Nakamoto. So what exactly is a blockchain? So blockchain is a immutable record or ledger. So blockchain is basically a kind of ledger that keeps a note of all transaction. It makes a record of all assets. Now, ledger is something that has been, we are using ledger for a long time. I could say more than 7,000 years ledger is in use. Earlier, when we are using ledger, it was like one entry system. We are making the record of all transaction. Later, in the year 300 BC, this Kautilya have proposed some standards for this ledger, and it is globally accomplished and also accepted. Later on, there is evolution of ledger also. Later on, we move to the two entry system where we are making debit and credit. Now, blockchain is a three entry ledger system where, or you can say it's a triple entry ledger system where we are not only making a note of debits and credit, but we are also providing a immutable link of all the past transactions. So blockchain is a tri-entry ledger or triple entry ledger. So ledger is basically making a record of assets. Now assets is something that requires a record of ownership. Now this ledger is not only making a record of financial transaction, but it can be making a record of any kind of transaction or any kind of assets. Now assets can be a tangible, it can be intangible. When I say tangible asset, it can be anything that is like maybe a car, maybe a house, maybe a ticket, movie ticket, anything that you are holding that has some value, that may be a tangible asset. And intangible means it may be your any patent that we have filed, any reward point that we have won. So it can make a record of any kind of assets. Then, what are the core components of this technology? So blockchain technology itself does not come out with a new concept. It's a new concept. For example, when you talk about internet itself is a new thing in itself. So blockchain technology is a combination of existing things that already we are using for a long time, like ledger. Ledger is something that is already in use for a long time. So, and cryptography. Cryptography is also, we are using it for making the doing the transfer online in presence of adverse environment. We are also using the internet for sharing the information online. So it's already been in place for a long time, but when we merge these three things in a smart way, we come up with this blockchain technology. Now cryptography has been used extensively in this technology because cryptography is something that addresses many things. It addresses the privacy concerns. It will provide the consensus mechanism. It ensures the integrity. So when you talk about the blockchain, the core components are these three, and along with this, there are some terminology that has been used with the blockchain. One is trustlessness, decentralization, ledgers, group consensus, immutability. And it's very important to understand all these terms because these terms basically defines this technology. So we'll understand all these terms one by one in the coming slides. Okay, then cryptocurrency is always there when we talk about the blockchain. This is the very first application of blockchain that is successfully running. Cryptocurrencies is already there in the market. You heard of the Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ripple, And these are just few names. As I said, there are more than 5,000 cryptocurrencies have been registered. Not all popular. Bitcoin is actually one that has been proving the most demanding cryptocurrency so far. But there are so many cryptocurrencies are there. Now, cryptocurrency is something that has been proposed in the 2008 with that paper. Earlier also, there was a lot of efforts have been made by different peoples to come up with some fungible, a fiat currency, but they were not able to succeed because at that time they were not able to address one problem that is called double spending problem. Now, double spending problem is a potential flaw in the digital cash scheme in which the same single digital token can be spent more than once. Now, this problem is obvious because when you want to use a digital token, then it can be falsified, it can be duplicated. And the problem will be more when we want to use this in a decentralized environment. So double spending problem is a very main problem that actually not allows in the previous time to use of cryptocurrency. But then this proposed by Satoshi Nakamoto, this problem has been addressed, and he said that this problem can be solved with the help of block. So whenever any transaction has to be done, it has to be recorded in the blocks, and blocks then to be verified before it can be added into previous blocks. So this proposal actually solves this double spending problem. And then now we can see that there are a lot of cryptocurrencies are there in the market. Then we have a decentralized term that we have been using, and that is the main, foundation of this technology, decentralized P2P network we say about the blockchain. Now, to understand the decentralized architecture, we need to have a look on centralized and distributed or cloud approach. So in the centralized approach, there is a person or a group of person who makes, who controls the entire components of the solution. So when I say any application is running, so there is one solution or application, there is data that runs into the application, and also there is one infrastructure that actually runs that applications. So we have different layers, we have different components to make the application work. So in the central approach, all these components and layers have a central authority. They are controlled by some group or one person. In the distributed approach, this controlling authority is somewhat laid off. So when we say, if we talk about the three component of any solution, means the application, the data that works in the solution, and the infrastructure. So in the distributed, the application and the data will again be under the central authority who control the entire things, but the infrastructures on which this application is running don't have a central control. Like a Facebook, they have their own application, they have the full control on the application. All the data that goes to the Facebook again will be in the control of the Facebook, but the hosting authority may be different. They may be using the different other party infrastructures to run their application. They may be using the host providers. They are using some cloud services. Maybe they are using the Amazon, Microsoft, IBM to run their application. So this is maybe an example of distributed where the partial control is actually laid off. When we talk about the decentralized environment, in the decentralized environment, there is no controlling authority. All the layers of the component, like the solution, the data, the infrastructures, is not controlled by a single party or by a third party. So when we talk about the centralized approach or the distributed approach, there is a network model called client server model is being used. Like there is a server is there who actually controls the entire data. Clients are there who makes the request to the server. In the decentralized network, there is no client server model. All nodes have a full rights. They all are equal. All are acting as a client and server. Then there is a peer-to-peer network. Peer-to-peer network is again the framework that is used by the blockchain. Peer-to-peer network means every node is connected to every peer nodes, and every node shares the entire ledger. Every node controls the entire data, whatever is there in the network. Every node owns the data and controls the data. So there is no central authority in the decentralized environment. So why decentralized environment? Now, this is the beauty of this blockchain network. Now, decentralized network itself make this environment more reliable and secure. So the very key point that comes with this network is the trust. Now, when we talk about the transactions, the trust is a very primary issue that we are concerned with. So there are bodies like bank. So when you make the transactions, we take the bank as an intermediary or a trusted person who can guarantee that the transaction has been done. We have sent the money to the third party. Similarly, when you invest money to any mutual funds or anything, there are regulatory bodies are there which are providing us a trust. Now in the decentralized network, there are no third body involved, and there is no need actually, because this framework itself says that I am so much secure that there is no need to to require a guarantee. My network itself is providing a trust. So this is a trustless environment where there is no need of third party. Now here in this, every node actually maintains, stores, and updates the ledger, and every node maintains its own copy of the ledger, and it is the responsibility of the entire network to make a consensus on any update that is made on any node at any point of time. So this is how this decentralized network brings the trust into this entire system. Then it is also providing a security. Here, every node is itself owning the entire data. So there is no possibility that you can find a DOS attack is there. Denial of service attack is almost impossible in this type of environment because there is no central server acting. In the client server environment, there is a central authority is there. And if a hacker is able to hack or control a central machine, he may be able to control the entire system. But here, if a person able to acquire or make a hold or control on any one node, then it is of no use, because every system is independent, and whenever any transaction has made, it has to be in consensus. Means everyone must agree on any transaction, then only that transaction has to be approved and validated. Means just making one changes on any system does not help to any hacker. And also all the nodes are kind of free. They can go offline, they can go online any point of time. So any offline node, when becomes online, they can just connect to or do the synchronization with the peer nodes and update their ledger. So this will also provide a single point of failure. It means even if 2, 3, or 10 nodes of getting down at any point of time, the system will still working. And also it is very good for countries whose uptime is not guaranteed. So it is very good for developing countries which having a developing infrastructures, because the entire system will still works if there is no continuous supply, or means if there is no continuous uptime for all the nodes, then also the system is working perfectly. So this decentralized architecture is actually key power, or this gives the main potential to the system. So far we have seen that blockchain is actually a ledger, which is basically maintaining the records or maintaining transactions. So why not a database? Database is also we have been using for a long time, and it's also holding our records. Now there is a key difference between the database and the blockchain. Database is basically working on 4 kind of principle that is called CRUD, C-R-U-D, create, read, update, and delete. That means in the database, you are allowed to insert any record. You can read the record, you can update the record, and also you can delete any record. All the 4 operations are possible at any time. But in the blockchain, in this decentralized architecture, we are only provided with the 2 operations, read and create. You are able to write the record and you are able to read the record. You are not allowed to update, you are not allowed to delete. And this is something that provides the immutability. Immutability means you are not allowed to delete anything. So how this is maintained? Let's say if something is written there and we need to update it. So in the blockchain, if you want to update something, you need to write a new record as an update. Means the previous old record will be there, and then you are going to write a new record. Similarly, if you want to delete something, delete means you need to write a transaction that will actually assure that now the previous is no more existing, but you cannot delete it properly. So this is the difference between the 2 systems, database and the blockchain ledger system. So you can say the database is actually providing is a snapshot, or it will show you the current state of data. But the blockchain ledger is basically telling us or showing us the entire history of all the data points. Now, this is the power that actually we are looking for, which actually avoids any kind of manipulation in the data. So this is called immutability. Immutability means we are not allowed to make any changes in the existing records. Then we have different type of blockchains are existing there. And when we look to the different applications, you can see that there are some are public, then private, open, closed, permission, and permissionless. So we have different type of applications are also there. So we need to understand these key terms, that what are these terms means. Now, public and private, the public and private basically concerned with who can write the data to the blockchain. So here the main concern is on the writing the data to the blockchain. So if we think about the public, so public is an open ecosystem where it allows that anyone can join and participate. So if you talk about the Bitcoin network, it's a public network where anyone can see all the transaction. Anyone can buy, sell the currencies on this network. If you talk about the private, now private blockchain is a scenario, or you can think about a solution like managing kind of donations given to any charity. So there is one agency which is collecting, one NGO you can say, who's collecting donations, and now there is a requirement to allocate these donation. So private blockchain means there may be a special person or very special permission given to any person who can only have the right to write the metrics for this donation, that how these donations can be used or can be distributed. So only a special person or a group of person can be provided these rights. Then comes the open and closed blockchains. Now in the open and closed, the concern is basically who can read the data from the blockchain. So the concern is basically on the read. So open means that will allow everyone to consume the data. So if you talk about the Bitcoin blockchain, it's an open blockchain which allows the larger audience to consume all the data which is there in the system. So you can use a Bitcoin Explorer and you can see that who made the transaction and how the transaction has been made, to which address, to other address, even if you have not participated in the transaction. So this is a open blockchain. Closed blockchain is where the read permission is restricted. So in the open, it will allow everyone to consume the data, but in the closed, it will not allow, it will restrict the read permission. So the scenario may be the electoral management system, means a voting management system, where only a designated person or officer is allowed to see that what is the election result and who has casted the votes to whom. So this is a kind of scenario which will define a closed blockchain. So the key point is the read part. Then we have permissions and permissionless blockchain. So here the concern is the ability of the system to track and manage the identity. So when we talk about the Bitcoin network, so Bitcoin network is basically a public network. It's a public blockchain, open blockchain, which allows everyone to consume or become a part of the ecosystem. And it does not maintain and track the identity of each individual. But if we talk about the permission blockchain, so this is a permissionless. Permissionless means public blockchain, open blockchain, which does not require any permission to participate in the network. You does not require any permission, any restrictions are not there. But in the permissions blockchain, the participant must acquire a permission. They are granted some metrics to access the or to a part of the system. So here we have two popular frameworks to develop these permissionless and permission blockchain. So Ethereum is an open ecosystem which can allow everyone to be a part of the system. It does not provide provision to track and manage the identity of each participant, that everyone can be a part of the system. But when you talk about the Hyperledger, in the Hyperledger, it's a permissions blockchain where the permission needs to be given to the to each participants of the system. So the system must have a provision to track and manage the identity. So Ethereum is not actually good for entrepreneurs or for any enterprise, because in the enterprise system, when you are going to make any applications based on blockchain for an enterprise, then you don't want to make an open system. So in that case, Hyperledger will be a good option for you. Now, blockchain implementation. So one thing to understand that blockchain is, though it is very powerful, it is very good. It's already shown its potential. Already we have seen its domination in many areas. But again, blockchain is not a solution for all kind of problems. So when you are doing any project, when you are making any solution, you are looking that blockchain is a good fit for you, then you need to ask some questions. If you find that your solutions will be already good with the traditional database system, then there is no need to go for blockchain. Then you must stay with the traditional database system. You may ask some questions to yourself to identify that which will be a good fit. Yeah, the traditional system or a blockchain system will be good fit for your problem. So do your database database require a decentralized structure or a centralized structure? If you think that it requires a centralized structure, then definitely you have to go with a traditional database. Otherwise, you can think about the blockchain systems. You can ask that, is a third party wanted for approving the transactions or not? So if the third party is required, means is any controlling authority is there, then definitely blockchain is not suitable for that application. You need to go for the traditional database. If there is no third party involved, then you are looking for the decentralized architecture, and that is a blockchain. Then you need to check that what kind of participants nature will be this. Are all the participants allowed to be a part of this system, or they need some permission? That means you have identified that blockchain will be a good for you, but again, you are trying to find out that which type of blockchain will be good. Will it be a permission blockchain or a permissionless blockchain? So by doing, by asking yourself a set of questions, you may identify that which type of blockchain will be good for you. So the objective of this slide is to tell you that blockchain is not the solution for all kind of problem. We have a specific use cases where blockchain will be a good, but definitely it is not good for all the use cases. Then to develop a blockchain solution, there is a metric has been proposed. This matrix has four areas. We are divided into 4 parts: public, private, closed, and open. So this matrix is going to help you that what kind of blockchain actually will be good for your application. You may have some problem, you are trying to develop some application based on blockchain, then which kind of blockchain, which type of blockchain will be good fit for you? Because already we have seen we have public, private, open, closed, permissionless. So which type of blockchain will be good for your problem? So this is one matrix that is going to help you. So you can start with the very fundamental question that are the participants allowed to be to participate in the blockchain? Are you interested to generate some cryptocurrencies into the system? It will allow you to find out that you are looking for the permission or permissionless blockchain. Now let us take some example. These are some problem areas. Let's say you are going to propose some currency, security exchange, betting, video games, voting records, supply chain data, construction tracking, defense program. These are the different problem areas, and we are interested to develop a blockchain-based solution. Already we have identified that blockchain will be a good fit for this kind of problem. This already we have identified. Now, what kind of blockchain solution will be good fit? So we need to find out that out of these 4 blocks, which block will be good for our problem. Now, to use this kind of matrix, one thing to understand that this matrix is only useful when you have a good understanding of the problem. You have properly analyzed. You have also understanding of the technology offerings. Then only this kind of matrix is going to help you. Likewise, you heard of the QFD, like query function deployment. Now, when you are going to make any product, you are going to propose any product, then you are using this QFD metric that is called quality function deployment, which help us to take the customer input and try to convert that customer input into technical specifications. Similarly, we have a matrix called decision matrix that actually help you to converge to the ideal solution. Now, what I mean to say is there are a lot of metrics available in the literature. Means if you go to software engineering, you will find a lot of metrics are available to you. They guide you to build up your solution. But these metrics are only helpful when you have understanding of the problem and understanding of the technology. Then only you can make use of this metrics. Otherwise, these metrics are not going to help you because these are not a straightforward formula. These are acting as a guide to come up with a good solution. So after doing careful analysis, identifying the problem nature and looking to the offerings of this technology, we have identified that these kind of problems are good fit for this area. These problems are good for this area. Means if I'm going to develop this kind of problems, then I am going to make a public and open chain blockchain. Similarly, you can see private and open, private and closed. This is the most restricted blockchain, like national defense, law enforcement, military, tax returns. This is something that requires maximum confidentiality and privacy. So this is the private and closed blockchain nature will be used. Now, how the entire system works. So you can see this is the simplest way to understand that how the entire system works using this blockchain technology. Let's say 2 person A and B, and they want to do transaction where A wants to send some money to B. So in the simplest way, you can see that A will make a transaction. Now it will send this money to B. So whenever the transaction is made, it is not immediately delivered to B, but this is transaction which is being recorded into the block. Now this is shared with all the participants. Among all the participants, there are special nodes. Now these participants is also known as nodes. Now there are special nodes which are actually acting as a validator, verifier, or a miner. They will validate that this transaction is valid or not. So here you can say, when I say this is valid or not, they will check that when A is sending to B, let's say $5, does A have this $5 or not in his account? So if he does not having the $5 in his account, he is not, eligible to send this to B. So this is a kind of validation they will make. So once the validation is being done by these validators or the miners, then it is set as a verified transaction. it is recorded to the blockchain, and also the money is being transferred to the receiver, that is B here. So this is how the system works. Now, how the blocks are created. So blocks is a very basic element of this blockchain. So even if you look to the blockchain, it's a chain of blocks, and block is basically a unit that holds a transaction. So the perfect analogy, if you want to understand in a very easy way, we can take blockchain as a notebook and block as a sheet of that notebook. So let us understand that how the entire things will work. So let's say there is a one hall, and let's say there are 20 people are sitting there, and each are having an identical notebook. They are keeping one notebook and a pen of same kind, and we have set one rule. Now, rule is a protocol. So even in the blockchain system, we have a protocol. Protocol is defined to make the system work. So we have made a rule that every student who is having a notebook in that hall, sitting in the hall, whenever they want to make a transaction, they need to announce it. So let's say there is one person A sitting in the hall. He want to send something. He want to give something to B. He will come up on the stage and he will say, I am giving this to B. And then everyone will write this transaction in their on their page. This is how the things will work. So every time when anyone wants to make any transaction, he has to come at the stage in the front and announce, so that everyone can hear and can write on the page. Now let's say this page is having 20 lines, 20 rows are there. So that means 20 transactions can be written there, because we are assuming that each transactions can be written at one row. So after this 20 transaction has been written on this page, then page becomes full. So at this time, what is required before moving to the next page, what all the participants, all the students, all the person who are sitting in that room, what they will do, they will simply compare their information on the page with every other person. Now there is a possibility that some person may have not written correctly and there is a mismatch. So in that case, what is the solution? They will go with the majority. This is called consensus. So here in the blockchain, whatever the majority says, that is assumed to be true. So let's say 20 persons are sitting in the hall and 15 is having a same kind of transaction. 5 is actually differenting with this transaction. So all will assume that whatever the 15 says, that is correct. This is called consensus in the blockchain terminology. So this is how the transactions are written. Now, when I say block, so here in this analogy, this page is actually said to be a block where we are writing a transaction. So when in the blockchain, all the transactions are actually transactions have been made, and they are written to the block. Once block has been filled, it has been validated. Once block is validated, it has added to the blockchain. This is how the things is actually working in the blockchain system. Now, what is written in the block? We have just discussed that inside the block, we have a transaction information. All the transaction that has been made between the nodes has been recorded in this block. Apart from this, to make the entire system smooth or provide integrity to the system, we have some extra information in this block. We call it as a metadata. Now, what else information is there? We are recording the version number. We are making a link of a block to the previous block. There is something called Merkle root. Merkle root is also data structure that is used in blockchain, which is also noted here. Time to stamp at what time this transaction has been done, and mining difficulty is also being noticed, being recorded here, and the nonce number used only once. So these are the different information that is actually recorded in the block. Now, group consensus. Group consensus is something that is required to validate the transaction in the decentralized environment, because here there is no controlling authority. The system is decentralized. Every owner is having the entire ledger. So whenever any transaction is done, we need to approve it. So the approval is done with the consensus mechanism. So there are a lot of concession has been proposed. I have only shown some of the concessions on the screen, but actually there are many existing. Proof of work is the consensus mechanism that is the oldest mechanism that has been proposed and successfully used. Like in the Bitcoin network, it has been used. Though it has some drawback, it has a drawback of consuming a lot of energy, but still it is working successfully. And because of this drawback, there are many effort has been made to propose a new consensus to address many of the blockchain problems like scalability. So we will talk about the stability also in the coming slides. So proof of work is one consensus. Proof of stake is also one consensus mechanism where every time when the transaction is made, we need to select one node as a validator. So validator is a node that will actually validate the transaction. And who will be selected as a validator? It depends on the stake, means the node which is having the highest stake will be having a chances to be selected as a validator. Now, why they are doing this task of verification and validation? Because they are getting some reward. So that is actually the key component behind the Bitcoin network, which is actually making them alive, because the miners are working to get a reward. They are getting reward in terms of the Bitcoin. So there are different consistent mechanisms are there. That is proof of elapsed time is there, which is proposed by Intel. Now, these mechanisms are already, these are a consensus mechanism which is already there for verification. No, so far, no one you can say that is the best one. So nowadays you can see that many of the new proposals are using a hybrid form of consensus to fit their requirement. The key point when we propose any consensus mechanism is how you are going to validate and how you are going to reward the validator, or we're going to approve the transaction. So there are many concessions are there. Now, how the blocks are chained together. Now, blocks are chained together. So in the previous example, we took an analogy of a notebook where each page is actually representing a block. So you want to connect that sheet with the notebook. So here one block has been filled with the transaction, and now we want to attach this block with the previous existing blockchain. So here we are using a hashing technique. Hashing is actually used to connect the two blocks. Now, hashing is a one-way function that takes any type of data as input and convert to a unique uniform digit character code. So hashing is basically gives a mathematical problem which is actually very easy to solve, but so very easy to verify, but very difficult to solve. For example, you may have seen many puzzles are there, which you can easily verify. Even you can see Sudoku is there. Sudoku is one puzzle. If you go to the very difficult level of Sudoku, anyone can easily verify that this is correct solution or not. But if you comes to the solving that Sudoku problem, it may be challenging for you. So there are, so when we talk about the hashing, it will convert into a mathematical puzzle that can easily be verified, but difficult to solve. So hashing is actually used to connect the two blocks together. Now, how they can be connect together, we'll see here. So basically, here we are using the, if you talk about the Bitcoin network, it's used SHA-256 algorithm. So here when the hashing is used, it will convert the entire data into a one hash output. So hashing will convert the given input to a unique output, and that unique output is of defined size. That means when we talk about the cryptographic hash which is used in the blockchain, whatever the size of input you are having, you are getting a unique size output. You may enter one single character A. Let's say our unique output size is of 20 characters. That means you insert 1 GB data, 2 GB data, your output will be only 20 characters. So this is how the things are handled. And Why this is required? So there's a concept called Merkle tree. Merkle tree is basically an efficient way of validating this data in the block. Now, as we have said, that each node in the blockchain is having an entire ledger, and whenever any transaction is done, they need to compare the ledgers with each other to ensure that everything is okay. Now, if you look to the block contains it's a lot amount of data, so there is no need to compare the entire data. There's a concept called Merkle tree. What is happening? We find a kind of root hash. We have find out there's a something called root hash. Now, root hash is actually find out by repeatedly doing the hash in pairs of the child node, and you keep on doing until only one node is left. So when an entire structure is given to you, as you see on the screen, you start from the bottom child, you take two nodes, do the hashing, move up, and then again take two nodes, do the hashing and move up, and finally you get the root hash. Now, this hash is actually the entire summary of your entire block data. So when I say you are going to compare the two blocks, so there is no need to compare the entire data. You need to just compare these hash value, which is a very small string. You need to simply compare these two, this small string, and that string is matching. If it is matching with all the participant nodes, that means everything is okay. If the string is not matching, that means some manipulation has been done and that node is rejected. So this is how Merkle tree is going to be helpful to validate the entire information in the block. Now, blocks are chained together by using the concept of hash, and here the header hash, the hash of every block must match with the previous header hash. So we have seen that the block is containing data, the transactions, and then there's a hash value. Now this hash value must match with the previous hash of the previous block. Now this provides a chain, and this will link to each other, and it also provides a kind of security to the system. What does it mean? It means already we have seen that for every input we have a defined unique output. So let's say if this is one block, and for this block we have a hash value. Now, if you make a very slight change in this block, the hash value will change, and now this hash value will not going to match with the previous hash value. That means this block has been manipulated, and then this link will be broken, and this will not be further linked with this blockchain, and it is detached. Similarly, if you can make change any change here, that means if you are going to make a change in any of the block, definitely it is going to change the hash value, because every input has a unique hash output, and it will delink the entire chain. So this is how the things are chained together, the blocks are chained together, and also provide a secure kind of linkage to each other in the entire blockchain. Now, mining a block. So how the block is being mined? So mining a block is basically validating a block. So mining is done by the miners whose job is to validate the block. Block contains a transaction. So before any block to be attached to a previous blockchain, it has to be validated. Now here we have a concept called nonce, number used only once. So what is happening? So if we talk about the Bitcoin blockchain, there is a set of transactions are there, and also we have set a defined set of defined output requirement. For example, let's say we have said that the output must be starting with the 4 zeros. So whenever there is a set of data, when you make a hash of it, you are going to get a one output. Now this output may not be matching with the required output for the defined blockchain. So you are not allowed to make any changes to the data. So how you can get a desired output, how you can get a hash in your desired format, you have to add something to this block. Then only you can try with different possibilities. And this is only possible with the nonce. So there is something called nonce. So miners, what the miners are doing, they are keep on trying with all possible nonce values to get the desired output. So the miner who will get this correct nonce value is actually said that he has validated the block. He will share this information to every other miners, and when every other miners will check this and they agree on it, and the block is verified. So let us, though there is Andy Wadsworth demonstration has been there. I would like to show you that how the things are working. Now you can see this. This is the how the things are working. This is uh, the data part. This is just to show that how this hashing will work. So this is the input area, and this is the hash for this blank, and this is the defined size hash. Now, whenever you write something to it, so if I write something, let's say I write 100 here, and you can see this hash value has been changed here. So when I write something to it, we are getting a unique hash value here. So every input will give a unique hash output, and the size of the hash output will remain the same. This is the thing that we are using in the Bitcoin network. So if you look to the block, how the blocks will look like. So this is just a kind of model where you can assume that how the blocks will look like. This is a block, and here we have a nonce value. Now you can see here that this is the output, and we have assumed that the accepted output will be any hash value start with the 4 zeros. Now, if you are going to make any change, now this is a validated block which contains no data, and this is this green means this is validated, this is correct. Now, if I am going to make any change here, let's say if I write some character here, then you can see this hash value will change, and also it is showing that this is invalidated. This is just for a graphic, and this is just for understanding purpose, that this value, this color changed to red. That means some manipulation has been done, and you can see that this hash value has been changed. So whenever you write or do any manipulation with the existing block, definitely it is going to make change in the hash value, and in return the entire block is getting corrupted. Now, what the miner will do, miner will try to find out one nonce value that will give you the desired form of output. So if I click on mine, the miner will try to do all the combination. It will try to provide different nonce value to get the desired output. So it will take some time. There's issues in the network, so let me check it again. This is something I have made a change. This blocks get invalidated. Let me try to find out some nonce value which will provide me a desired hash output. So you can try this. There is some issues in my network. My network is not good here. Maybe because of rainy seasons. Presently, I'm in India and it's raining here. So maybe because of that. Okay, so there's a issue of internet. But what actually I am trying to do here is when I click on mine, it will try with all possible values. So it's a kind of guess. They will make some mathematical computations to find out that which value will give a hash which starts with 4 zeros, and that we call it as a mine. For example, now see here, I have written a value here, and with this new nonce value, we are getting a required hash for which start with 4 leading zeros. So this is the meaning of nonce. So this is the only part where you can make any changes, because the transaction you cannot make any changes. This is the part that the miners will try to find out to get desired output. Now, if you look to the, if you simulate or if you try to understand that how it will look like, so this is a blockchain where we have 3 nodes are there, 3 participants are there, and each participant is having a similar copy. All will maintain the same copy of the entire ledger. So we have 5 blocks are here, and you can see here that all blocks are same. Now there is something called height of the blockchain. So height of the blockchain refers to how many blocks are there in the blockchain, and height will also basically determine what is the security defined for a block. So if the block is having a more height, then that block is said to be more secure. What does it mean? It means, now for example, if you look here, this is block number 4, this is block number 5, and this is the hash value, and this hash value is matching with this previous hash value of this block. So this is matching here. Now if I am going to make a change here, something, so this is going to invalidate because the hash value has changed. That means some manipulation has been done, and this will invalidate this block, and the entire nodes succeeding this block will be disconnected. Now let's say some miner trying to fix up this. He's trying to do some manipulations to fix up this, and he'll try to mine this. He'll try to find out the proper nonce value that will match with this, the succeeding block. But the thing here is, even if he succeeded to fix this 2 blocks in this blockchain for a peer A, it will not be working for the hacker because the other 2 peer is not matching with the values which this peer A is having. Means the block values are not matching with these 2 peers. What I mean to say is, even if a hacker is able to control any one node or able to fix any one blockchain of any peer node of any node, then also it will not going to help unless he is able to control the entire system, all the peers. Then only he will be able to do any manipulations. So this makes the entire system more secure. So if you look about the tokens, how the transaction has been recorded here. So this is block 1, this is nonce value, and this is just a kind of demonstration that how the transaction has been recorded. So from this party to this party, this transaction has been done. So this is all recorded here. So if any transaction has been done by any party to other party, then it will backtrack to check that it will actually have this amount of money or not. So the overall system is actually very much secure, and all is actually done in the concession process. Okay, going back to our presentation. Okay, so how actually miners work? So whenever any transaction has been done on the blockchain, it is not immediately verified, but it will stay in the transaction pool. So all the transaction has been done, it is not reflecting immediately, it will be sitting in the transaction pool. So there are a lot of miners working in the blockchain whose job is to validate these transactions. So what they will do, they will pick a set of transaction and make a block, and then they will try to validate by using the strategy that we have discussed. So they will take a block of transaction from the transaction pool and keep on trying to find out or validate that transaction. At the same time, they have to keep aware of the transaction that has been approved. So let's say this is one miner who has been working to verify the transaction, and he has picked some transaction from this pool of transaction. And let's say this transaction 2 is in this block, and now there is another miner who already validate any block and which contains this transaction number 2. Then after every approval of transaction, he has to discard the block on his working, and he has to again start with a new set of transaction for a verification of that block. So this is how the things are working, and this process keep on going. They have to keep on looking at what are the transactions existing in the pool. They will pick a set of transactions, keep on trying to validate it. At the same time, they also check that what transaction has been approved, and if any other transaction have approved which is in the list of this block, then they have to discard that block and again start with the new block. This is how the miners will work to validate the transactions. Then we have blockchain use cases are there. There are many applications already we have seen where blockchain has successfully implemented. One of the very prominent use of blockchain is background checks. Background checks is actually good. For example, we want to make a check, or we want to authenticate or validity or verify the credentials of any student of his academics. A student get the academics, any certificates, any awards, and if you want to verify this, this can be verified when we put all these things on a blockchain. Now, what is happening? There are cases appearing, and I think you all are aware about this, that there is a fake degrees are being, awarded, and the people are actually having these fake degrees, and with the fake degrees, they are getting their jobs. But with this kind of structure, when you keep all the data on the blockchain, there is no possibility of doing any manipulations. There is a case now. These kind of fake degrees will be a real problem when you talk about the doctors. So there are a lot of doctors who are practicing without having a, the authentic degree. They have just made a fake degree and they are practicing it. And this is really very serious because the patient's life is on the stake. So already been identified. If you look at the reports, I was just checking it. In the US, 5% doctors are actually practicing with the fake degrees. Even in India, there are a lot of cases are there. People are practicing with not their authentic degree. So with this kind of situation, blockchain, we can monitor and we can verify that the degree is fake or authentic. Then personal identification is other area where the blockchain can be applied. Personal identification means we all as a person are having one identity in the form of passport. We have Aadhaar card, we have different identity cards are there, and there are forgeries being happening. There are a lot of forgery cases registered in the police stations. So again, this can be stopped, this can be controlled when we write or make a ledger of all these entries in the blockchain. Then there is no possibility of doing any manipulations. Now, this identification must be kept confidential, as we know that every identification of a person is a very confidential thing. So blockchain will be very helpful in that case. Even it's also required for any government that the correct identity must be maintained, and there should be no manipulation done with them, because government has to make the schemes. They need to allocate the budgets for the benefit of the person. So there's a need to put a restriction on this fake identities. Land registries is again a good use case for a blockchain, and not only in India but in abroad also. It has been identified that in general, 1 out of every 3 land naming is actually having issues. There is a problem with the land system, though we already have a central system in place. When you purchase any land, you have to go to this tehsil where you are going to register your land. So already we have in place one system which will make a record of all entries. But again, there is a case that a person who is handling the entire system can be bribed, and he can do some kind of manipulation with the existing data. And again, there's a central system is there. Anyone can control that system and can do the manipulation. So again, with the blockchain, this kind of things can be controlled. Global supply chain is again very much uh, uh, highly witnessed this successful use case of blockchain. In 2018, Walmart already announced that they have going to make the entire supply chain with the help of blockchain, and already by 2020, they have already implemented the entire system in the blockchain. The other good use case of blockchain in the automobile industry is of Mercedes. Now, Mercedes is already suffering. They are making this kind of airbags, and there is having a kind of forgery in this kind of airbag systems, and it has already reported in that around 25-30% airbags which is produced by the Mercedes is actually duplicated, and because of this duplication, their company is getting a bad reputation. They are also having the financial loss. But this blockchain, they can have a full control. They have a provenance tracking. They can see that from its origin to its destination, how it is supplied, who is the owner. So the entire thing can be tracked, and this kind of things will be controlled. Then health will be also one use case of this blockchain, where the entire health record will be kept on the blockchain. And because the things are now global, we are living in a global world. The patients are consulting around the globe. So the with the prescriptions on the blockchain, the doctors can see it. Means now this is a kind of permission blockchain where our permitted doctors can see their track records of the student of the patients disease. They can diagnose, they can see the improvements, and also you can link this kind of system with the insurance companies. They can also decide about the claims, because everything will be transparent. So blockchain system is actually providing a transparency to the entire kind of transactions. If you think about the conventional system, so here also the blockchain system is very useful. If you think that, if you look to this figure, we have three entities are here. One is a distributor, one is a retailer, and a bank. Now all three entities are working together to run a system. Now if you look to the conventional system or the conventional record system, record keeping system, there is no collaboration. There is no sharing of the information, how it flows, the loans. But when we move to the blockchain, so in the blockchain, what is noticed? So in the blockchain ledger, each entity, you take it as an inventory, the loan, the information, all these assets are considered as a unique entity, and they will be assigned a unique ID. And these identity we are calling as a token. So whenever there is any transaction happening between any of the parties, we are simply registering a transaction that the token is flowing from one party to other party. Now, what does that mean? It means that whatever the things are flowing, the entire information becomes transparent among the three parties. But in the previous system, in the conventional system, all are making their own system, which is not transparent to every other party. But in the blockchain-based system, it's an open ledger, and all will be able to see all the transactions. Now, this provides the provenance tracking. Provenance tracking means it provides an ability to track the system from its origin. So if you talk about the global supply chain of any large company, their supply chain is very complex, and it is very difficult to record of every transaction. But with the help of this blockchain-based ledger system, this provenance tracking and the record keeping will now access every entity by providing the IDs to each entity, and these IDs can be accessed by using sensors and RFIDs. Cost reduction is again secondary advantage using this kind of system, because in this system there is no need of third party, because whenever we talk about a third party, we need to pay some charge as a service charge. But blockchain itself is a secure system, there is no need of third party. So definitely the cost of transaction will be reduced. Established the trust. Now it will also bring the trust in the entire system, because now there is a transparency in the system. All the entire ledger is visible to each party. So this type of blockchain will ensure quality, transparency, trackability, and reliability to the entire system. Again, you can think about one use case in the recent scenario where we were having cases of this coronavirus, and all the governments in all the countries, they are coming up with some app. Like in India, we have Arogya Setu app, and the purpose of this app is to track that if you have been across any person who's infected. Government is also keeping a track that what are the hotspot areas where this disease is spreading. So a lot of kind of analysis can be done by using this kind of app. But again, there is the issue: the peoples are resisting to download this app. They have a concerns of security, they have a concerns of privacy actually. So you have come across many newspapers where they are actually not showing their interest to use this app, because they think that the government may be using their information in for other purpose. But again, with the blockchain, it provides anonymity. So self-sovereign identity can be proposed, where the user controls and owns its own identity without the interfering of any government authority. And this identity can be used online in the same way as a person is actually living offline. So this is again one use case of blockchain. So these are the different products proposed by different companies. If you look to the Luxsoft, so this is one company who's already implemented a voting system on blockchain. Supply chain system has already been implemented by IBM. Then health insurance by the Life ID, Cook County is for the land registries. So if you are interested to make any project or develop any application on blockchain, I suggest you to go through through these products. Their documentation is already provided on the internet. You can just go through them to get an idea that what is required to develop a blockchain application for such kind of problems. Blockchain challenges are there. There are many challenges existing. This is inefficient in terms of it's not that much fast. If you talk about the Visa network, which is very, very fast. So if you want to do the online transactions that we are doing, it's not good for that. So when we talk about the blockchain, we have there is a thing called availability, security, and scalability, right? So far we have focused on the availability and the security. The scalability is still a challenge, and so many work has been done on this, but those who are doing research, they can work on the scalability issues. That because blockchain has been adopted by a large organization, it's been scaling to a larger extent. So how to make the transactions fast? This is one issue. So we have to come up with a good consensus mechanism that can do the overall transaction very fast. The technology is still evolving. We don't have best practices. We don't have any recommended pattern. It's still evolving. Many new things have been coming. So far, we have so much things have been identified. We identify the potential, but there are so many still hidden with the technology that will be known to us by the coming time. So these are the challenges with the technologies. So the person who are looking to work in the blockchain, they can take these challenges or the limitations as a research for them, and they can propose a solution that will be their research work. So this is all that I wanted to talk to you in this session. Now you can raise your questions. Thank you for listening.
Yes, sir. It was very comprehensive, rich of demonstrations and all, and very useful session, as it is a day 2 So this introductory information in detail will be very much useful for the teachers to take up the subject. Any questions, any discussions from the audience? Either you can raise your hand or you can just put it in the chat box. Sir, you have given so many case studies. So like for online examination system, can you give a slight idea about online examination system, how we'll be able to implement it?
Could you please repeat your question?
Sir, for online examination system, how blockchain can be considered?
Okay, so the key idea is again used here in the online examination system. So when you say about online system, the one issue is to verify the candidate is genuine or not. You need to authenticate the candidate that he is actually appearing for the exam, or some other person is appear in place of him. So with this system, you can make a kind of you can generate a system where you can design a protocol that can be used to verify the candidate when he's appearing the online system. So for this, you can think about the Ethereum platform may be used to develop this kind of systems.
Right. Thank you, sir. There is one more question from Madhav Ajwalia. In one of the case study, that is identity management using blockchain technology, what are open challenges? So the question is available in chat as well.
You are talking about identity management, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So as I said that I have taken a case of this Arogya Setu, and the Arogya Setu, the peoples are not, they are reluctant to use this app because they fear that their identity may be used for other purposes. So they are concerned of privacy, right? Now, in the blockchain, the identity is not revealed, but whenever you do any transaction, your identity is reflected as an address. So even in the Bitcoin network, though it's an open ecosystem, everyone can visualize that what are the transaction has been done, but it is hard to track that who is the actual person who is doing the transactions. So in the identity management, we have in the blockchain, the identity is actually anonymous. So with the help of this anonymity, this identity is actually maintained. But if you go deeper into it, so this is not actually anonymous. This is a pseudo anonymous because we are giving an address to every for every transaction. So if a smart hacker, if he want to make a record of a series of transaction, with a series of transaction, he may be able to identify that what this address reflects to a person. But again, now we have a very smart protocols. What we are doing is every time when a transaction is made by any node, every time the address has been changed. So it adds another layer that makes it difficult for any hacker to identify any person who is making the transactions. So the thing that is present in the blockchain is a pseudo-anonymity that actually deals with identity management.
Right. Thank you, sir. Sir, but there is
Can
one
we
more.
use blockchain technology? Okay. Can we use blockchain technology in algorithmic trading for stock market? Now, again, blockchain technology cannot be used for a kind of analysis. Blockchain technology, the key benefits of the blockchain technology is to provide the security, they provide immutability. So if you want to use for kind of analysis or want to do some analysis of this stock market, you need to add some AI or some machine learning tools into the blockchain. So blockchain will only provide you the correct data that you can rely, and using that data you can apply some machine learning algorithms to make some predictions on the stock market. But itself, the blockchain technology does not going to make some analysis. Blockchain technology basically used to provide you the ledger services which are secure and which are immutable.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So I'm launching a poll for faculty members. The poll questions are based on the session of Dr. Ashish, so that it will be a kind of revision and takeaway from the session. And I request Alka ma'am to propose vote of thanks.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ashish sir. That was a wonderful and a very knowledgeable session. Our participants, and definitely even we have learned a lot from you, because the trend back blockchain has started, like the concept of blockchain for us has started since yesterday. So we are hearing about it, and we've seen the demo of the blockchain, how you develop the blocks, and what about nonce. We've got about Merkle hash. So we've really got to know about it and how it can be used, because now it's coming in our mind that how we can use it, practical applications. So we've really got the clue how it can be implemented, and you've given your precious time to us. That is very nice. And you've told us about your made us join with ACM also. So that is very nice. Thank you so much, sir. It was very nice.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the invitation.
And definitely we'll touch you again. We'll take your services.
I will always be available to have associate with any of the events you are having. And also the participant, if they have anything to ask or they want to have any query in future, they can note down my email ID. So it's one on the desk. I will be very happy, because when many of times when I got a question from my students or from the participant, from faculty, actually this gives me a kind of a scope also for further research, because itself there are sometimes not able to find some good questions, but when I find these questions, it gives me a scope to work on. So again, thank you very much to all of you for listening and for the invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So all the faculty participants are requested to contribute to the poll, fill your attendance or feedback form, and next session we will be starting at 11:45. So we are having really a short break. So I think it was a very energetic and interesting lecture. So quickly take a break and come back timely at 11:45. Thank you. Hello, sir. I think it was a very with a very clear understanding and comprehensive session. And I feel that so many terminology has been revised for last day. So at this moment, we are now quite clear about the basic concepts of blockchain. So that is really, I think, very much useful to all the teachers.